Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Well, if it feels like we started off a week already once this summer talking about the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, you're not wrong. We had a very close assassination attempt on Trump in Pennsylvania back in July. And then yesterday at the Trump International Golf Club in Palm Beach, Florida, the Secret Service spotted a person it thought was a threat, fired shots, and that person is now in custody. It does not appear that the person who was the threat actually got any shots off. It appears they had an AK-47 style weapon. This person is in their late 50s, seems to have a fairly loony history on social media and so forth. But Jim, as you put so clearly and succinctly in the title of the Jolt today, could we stop trying to kill Donald Trump, please? I mean, if we could just stop that, that would be really nice. There's still many questions about what's happening here. It does appear that it's being classified as an official assassination attempt, just like the one back in Pennsylvania. And then Rick Bradshaw, the sheriff of Palm Beach County, giving a little more insight into how this guy actually got on the grounds without being detected.
Well, you got to understand the golf course is surrounded by shrubbery. So when somebody gets into the shrubbery, they're pretty much out of sight. All right. And at this level that he is at right now, he's not the sitting president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around it. But because he's not, the security is limited to the areas that the Secret Service deems possible. So I would imagine that the next time he comes to the golf course, there'll probably be a little bit more people around the perimeter.
Well, I would certainly hope so. It's your job to keep him safe no matter what he's doing. And if he's on a golf course, you need to keep him safe there as well. So some jokes out there, Jim, about how shrubbery is now the thing that seems to have nearly foiled the security plan for the president. So we're going to go bad, crazy, good in today's Three Martini Lunch. But what do you make of the fact that once again, somebody got, within a few hundred yards of taking a potentially fatal shot at Donald Trump?
Well, good news for all of the golfers. It looks like the fairways are going to get a lot wider. Probably doing a lot of trimming of those bushes and the shrubbery on the sides and the trees and all that stuff. I know going back to 2016, people said the bushes in Florida were going to be a problem for Trump, but I don't think this is how they meant it. And I'm being kind of lighthearted. We laugh about these things because otherwise we would cry. To hear the statement, well, he's not a sitting president. Okay, but he was one, and somebody just shot him in the ear. Like I'm picturing the old Homeland Security color-coded chart, and it sounds like they've got Trump at orange. Now, at minimum, this calls for burnt sienna. This really is getting like what do you need to see to say, wow, we really should be pulling out all the stops for security for this guy? What made you think, nah? It's been almost 60 days since somebody tried to shoot at this guy. He's probably fine. Look, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert at presidential security. I will note that every time I've gone to a presidential event or the conventions earlier this year, there's a very strict, perimeter around there. The idea is not just you can't get near the president, in person. You basically can't get within reasonable firearm distance of him without going through a magnetometer, without, maybe getting patted down or any of the usual things that they do there. So, and I realize a golf course is different. A golf course is bigger, more wide open spaces. But if there were things that they could have done and should have done, if Donald Trump were the president, then what more do you need to see? What possibly, who in the U.S. Secret Service, and by the way, we will talk about the good martini in a little bit. And one of the good ones is that thankfully no one got a shot off, and that, the president was never seemed to be seriously at risk as far as we could tell. Certainly you pulled through this just fine. But why aren't we at a higher DEFCON level here, fellows? Why? What did you need to see? What did you need the circumstances? Kudos to the Secret Service agent who spot what sounds like the barrel of the gun sticking out of the trees. Thanks for, good for them for returning fire. The president didn't catch him. That was a little unnerving. And thankfully it was the law enforcement down the road that got him. But you just kind of add it up, just really kind of frightening. Put it on top of what we were hearing from Democratic senators last week about the seriousness of the lack of, the miscommunications in Butler, and then probably the U.S. Secret Service and Homeland Security not being honest about it, not being straightforward about all this stuff. really, really tough to have a lot of faith in the U.S. Secret Service right now.
And this is a little bit different than Butler because you have so many different videos from people who were at the rally. The guy was within, 150 yards or whatever it was. I mean, way too close and spotted and flagged long before the shots went out. So this one seems like they neutralized him about as quickly as you could once he got onto the property. He never should have gotten onto the property. And again, hats off to the agent for seeing whatever disturbance was going on in that shrubbery. But Jim, it's clear you can never book a presidential event at anywhere with sloped roofs or shrubbery or, heaven forbid, both.
Does that leave like Death Valley? There's not a lot of...
This is going to keep pushing towards the indoor option, which I think they were trying to do shortly after that, but Trump has since rejected. But much more to talk about here. But in the meantime, let's talk about Z-Biotics, because if you are, in law enforcement in Palm Beach County, Florida, or at the federal level, it's happened again, and I can understand why you might want to have an adult beverage, but you shouldn't because you got a job to do to figure out what happened and make sure it doesn't happen again. But if you're going to have an adult beverage, before you do it, take Z-Biotics. I promise you, you will feel better the next morning than you would if you don't take it.
Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut, and it's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next morning. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol produces an enzyme that breaks this byproduct down. So just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night, drink responsibly as always, and you will feel your best the following morning.
Yeah, this isn't rocket science. Drink in moderation, but before you do any of the drinking, take Z-Biotics, and you will feel better the next day, just as my colleague does, who I've mentioned many times. Go to zbiotics.com/3ml to get 15% off your first order when you use 3ml at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantees, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Visit zbiotics.com/3ml and use the code 3ml at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, Z-Biotics, for sponsoring this episode and our good times. All right, Jim, on to our crazy martini now. And usually, when a political figure is the target of an assassination attempt, the coverage is somewhat sympathetic to the target of that assassination attempt. But as we saw pretty quickly after the assassination attempt in Pennsylvania, the media was asking both sides to tamp down the rhetoric, and then started, after a little while, specifically talking about Trump needing to tone down the rhetoric. Well, I don't think they even waited for phase 2 yesterday. All over the place. This is Trump's fault because of his rhetoric, it seems. First of all, Lester Holt over on NBC.
Today's apparent assassination attempt comes amid increasingly fierce rhetoric on the campaign trail itself. Mr. Trump, his running mate J.D. Vance continue to make baseless claims about Haitian immigrants in Ohio.
And then over on the sister cable channel, MSNBC, it was Alex Witt.
We do not know, again, the source of any gunshot or gunshots. We don't know who's responsible for this. The whole thing has yet to be 100% confirmed from start to finish how this all played out. But do you expect to hear anything from the Trump campaign about toning down the rhetoric, toning down the violence, or would that be atypical of the former president?
Then you've got Biden and Harris, who said the right things, but in written statements, neither one of them felt compelled to get in front of a camera. Apparently, this is just so common now, we just need to issue a common statement. And then we've got Rachel Vindman, the wife of Alex Vindman, one of the twin Vindman brothers, who are the self-appointed martyrs of the Ukraine impeachment story from back in 2019-2020. She says Trump's been inciting violence against his enemies for years. He douses a situation in gasoline, lights a match, and walks away claiming no responsibility. Look at what's happening in Springfield, Ohio right now, but he wants to claim he's a victim. You can't have it both ways. She gets a lot of blowback, and she replies, "Sorry, you're triggered. I mean, no, I'm not. I don't care a little bit." And then finally she says, "No ears were harmed. Carry on with your Sunday afternoon." Now, not her husband, but the other Vindman brother, Eugene, is running for Congress, sadly in my district, in an open seat where Abigail Spanberger is giving it up to run for governor. And hopefully he'll lose, but I'm dubious that that'll actually happen. But I'm sure this won't help, this type of callousness in response to this. But whether it's kind of a routine response from the people currently in office, the knee-jerk, well, must be something he said from the media, or people like this, we're not in a good spot, Jim.
For starters, Eugene Vindman, the one running for Congress, Yes did put out a statement on Twitter X. It is the most generic, check the box, perfunctory, political violence is bad, which is better than ignoring it. But when I wrote this morning, stop trying to kill Donald Trump. That really didn't strike me as going out on a limb. I didn't think I was taking a bold, crazy stance. Listeners know my perspective on Trump, but for God's sake, never contemplate, you're gonna shoot somebody to prove your point, or you're gonna win the election that way, or something like that. Going in reverse order, Holt didn't say because connecting assassination attempt on Donald Trump, Trump's heated rhetoric regarding Springfield, Ohio, and things like that, but it's more or less implied. And I was discussing this with Hugh Hewitt earlier this morning, and Hugh thinks that Holt was just reading what was on the teleprompter, not really thinking through. He doesn't think that's the sort of thing Holt would say or believes. I don't know if that's the case, but I'll just point out that, you really shouldn't be connecting those two thoughts. And by the way, you can say what Donald Trump said about Springfield, Ohio, Haitian migrants is false, it's wrong, it's outrageous, it's incendiary. You can say all that kind of stuff. But you can't say, or you should not say anything that says, ergo, someone tried to kill him. Kind of like, well, it's a natural consequence of that. If a politician lying was enough to justify trying to, kill somebody, Greg, somebody would have tried to crash a plane into the White House when Bill Clinton was president. Oh, wait, that happened. No, bad example. Or they would have shot an AK-47. Oh, wait, that happened too. Okay. By the way, the lesson of these little, side anecdotes are that we've had nut jobs trying to kill the president for quite some time. It is unfortunately a fact of life. And before I go any further, I want to emphasize, the perpetrator is the person who is most directly responsible. I don't think that the fact that the perpetrator is the one who's most directly responsible gives everybody a moral get-out-of-jail-free card for anything they say or anything else that they do. I think that you can believe in the First Amendment and say, hey, you know what? There's certain things you shouldn't say. You should not take pleasure in assassination attempts. You should not glee. You should not say, as the Benny Thompson staffer said, have better aim next time, things like that. You should not be wishing for the assassinations of your enemies, because that's like one step away from supporting assassination, which is one of the things that convinces these nut jobs, if I do this, I will be remembered as a hero. Now, the shooter in Butler, as far as we know from the information the FBI has released, seems like a garden variety angry kid who wanted to make a name for himself by shooting. He was looking up information about Trump, looking up information about Biden, looked up information about both parties' conventions. It sounds like he just really wanted to be famous by killing a president or a former president. Didn't really care which one. So by that sense, you wouldn't say, well, this person's been watching too much Rachel Maddow and therefore thinks that. This shooter down in Palm Beach certainly looks like your standard issue left-wing nut job. And by the way, long criminal record, including barricading himself in his after evading police. Conceivably a ticking time bomb. And you're kind of left with this circumstance. The more you tell these people that there's something right about what you did, there's something noble about what you did, there's something good about what you did, the more likely it is the next nut job is going to say, okay, I'll do it. And again, we've had 2 in about 60 days. We've got about 50 days till the election. I hope nothing happens between now and election day, but that does not feel like a safe bet right now.
No, it doesn't, because it's 2 months since the last one, and it's only going to get more intense as we get closer to Election Day. And so with the amount of mental illness going on in this country, who knows? The title of your Jolt is the takeaway of the day. Please don't try to kill anybody.
Yeah.
No politicians, no candidates.
Thou shalt not kill would have been a good title as well. But,
Yes. But apparently a lot of people can't simply obey it. All right, well, let's talk about another great sponsor, and that is Oracle. Because, look, artificial intelligence might be the most important new computer technology ever, and it has the potential to transform every industry, altering the way we work, live, and interact with the world. But the problem is that AI needs a lot of speed and processing power. So how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? The answer is to take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/martini.
It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. It offers a complete range of cloud services to meet your needs, whether it's on-premises, hybrid, multi-cloud, or public. Its global network and flexible options tackle your toughest business challenges. It's a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. And it's got 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, all at one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing.
Now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. Do more and spend less. How simple is that? Do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, and Databricks Mosaic. Take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/martini. That's oracle.com/martini. Oracle.com/martini. All right, Jim, on to the good part of this story. And of course, we mentioned in passing in the first one that the Secret Service agent was obviously paying close attention, as he should have, spotted something wrong in that shrubbery, acted, forced the guy to flee, and eventually the guy was taken into custody. So that's great. Very quick response and flushing out the problem, very much unlike Butler. The other good news here, I think, in addition to the fact that obviously no one was harmed, is that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is planning a separate investigation here since this happened in the state where he is governor. And given the total ducking of the issue by Kimberly Cheadle before she was fired, her replacement wasn't that much better under oath. Chris Wray certainly drew some fire during the FBI testimony on that. And then just last week, as you referred to, even Democrats like Dick Blumenthal of Connecticut are saying the American people are going to be appalled at how bad the protection was in Pennsylvania and how lousy the cooperation has been from Secret Service and the larger DHS. So DeSantis tweets out yesterday evening, the state of Florida will be conducting its own investigation regarding the attempted assassination at Trump International Golf Club. The people deserve the truth about the would-be assassin and how he was able to get within 500 yards of the former president and current GOP nominee. So, Jim, it's sad on some levels, probably multiple levels, that we can't trust the feds to do this in a timely, transparent manner. I think you and I both have a lot more confidence that whatever Florida can investigate will be done, and we'll have some results fairly quickly.
Yeah, the FBI investigation into Butler, look, they did come up with a decent amount of information. They give us something of a portrait. I think there's some frustration that, it's not quite as a lingering mystery as the Las Vegas mass shooting from a couple of years ago. But when it turns out that the motivation of the shooter is so mundane, is so, he was just another angry kid who wanted, I think there's almost like this hunger for a greater explanation. There's, okay, the world has a lot of angry kids. What makes this person want to do it? And the fact that this would-be presidential assassin's profile really is more what we've come to expect from school shooters. I think there was kind of this, that doesn't make sense to people, that there was kind of this, wait a minute, are we really getting the whole story, or is this some sort of, convenient narrative being put forth there? Particularly when we know there were so many just egregious mistakes on the part of the U.S. Secret Service. Look, I suspect the FBI will do a complete investigation of this one. The circumstances are somewhat more explainable in the sense that the golf course is a big, wide open space. Clearly, there was Secret Service protection around Trump on the golf course. By the way, apparently, according to Sean Hannity, Trump felt he'd done really well and didn't want to stop golfing because he really thought he had a birdie putt. And again, credit to Trump for being able to laugh and be able to say something funny under stressful circumstances. And look, at some point, your perimeter has to end. And if somebody's on the other side of that perimeter and trying to take the shot, they run away, then conceivably, you're not going to be in a position to pursue. Again, not reassuring that he was able to get away. Very glad that local law enforcement was able to get him. And again, when somebody like Dick Blumenthal comes out and says, boy, this is really unforgivable on the part of the U.S. Secret Service and the superiors in hiding information. In legal terms, it's called admission against interest. And the jury is instructed to take that as more likely to be truthful rather than somebody who's saying something in their interest. That said, when these things happen, conspiracy theories crop up almost immediately. People believe that they have accomplices. Is this part of a larger plot? Was somebody supporting them? We know, by the way, that Iran and other hostile powers have been put up interest in trying to assassinate both President Biden and President Trump. There's no indication that's what was at work here, but nonetheless, people are going to want to connect dots and figure stuff out. Having a Republican, Ron DeSantis, admittedly one who ran against Trump in the primary, but a guy who I think would be very motivated to get to the bottom of it, coming out and giving his own report. And if those two reports match up, all right, that's a good sign. It probably means that there's nothing that's being swept under the rug or anything like that. So I'm glad that Florida government will be doing this. And I don't expect them to find something dramatically different, but maybe the Florida government will be a little quicker to point fingers at certain decisions about whether Trump deserved, like I said, that red level, top level protection, or the sense that next to the top level protection should be fine. We will see what that report generates, Greg.
I think they've got to up it pretty significantly. They can't have 3 or more attempts going on here before Election Day. So anyway, this needs to stop. It needs to stop now, and hopefully it will. But in terms of the response in many different corners, a little too casual, to say it mildly. So, Jim, on that note, have a good day, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Do subscribe to the podcast if you don't already. Tell your friends about us as well. Thanks also for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Follow us both on X. He is at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a great Monday and join us again on Tuesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.